This is Atmaboda. Today is January 1st, 2023, and I've got a New Year's resolution to be putting out as much content as possible in the new year. And in fact, let's start the new year with a bang and get some music rolling. Okay, the title of today's podcast is The Danger of Religion. And we're going to try to fix the sound today. See if we can get just some basic music in the background and see how this is going to sound. But the reason why religion has a danger is the connection with ideology, okay? Ideology. And one of the main reasons that ideology has gotten big in the past has been why? Because of victimhood mindset, okay? And what you'll find with religion, and no matter which religion you're talking about, I'm not really aware of any religion that doesn't put you as a victim and placing religion as the savior that is there going to rescue you, okay? And no matter what religion this is, in fact, let's go ahead and look at some religions right now. Let's just open up the Opera browser, which we're using at the moment. And let's just go on YouTube. Let's just type in religion. Let's start with Christianity. Let's go ahead and enter on Christianity. Oh my goodness, things are not connected to the internet. Let me just fix that real quick. And through the magic of time travel, we are connected to the internet. And looking here, we're now seeing videos about Christianity and about how atheist scientists become a believing Christian, Judaism versus Christianity. But let's just talk about, first of all, the most obvious flaw with the Christian religion, and that would be the concept of original sin. Okay, original sin. Let's just deal with that real quick, because what original sin is, if you're not aware, it dates back to the Garden of Eden when Eve tempted Adam with the apple, and then they were cast from the Garden of Eden. That is how we have original sin. And there we go. We have a refrigerator turning on in the background. That's new. We're at a new hotel room hoping that this is going to be a bit quieter, but apparently we got some refrigeration happening there, so maybe we'll have to unplug the fridge. Let's pause it for a sec. Time travel done. So hopefully this is going to be a much better listening experience. So original sin, Adam and Eve cast out from the Garden of Eden. Why? Because they sinned or something. They did something that God told them not to do, which was to eat of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, and they were cast out of the garden. Well, actually, let me just tell you the real meaning behind that parable is that the fruit represented desire, and Eve was offering desire basically to Adam, and through desire, That's how they left the Garden of Eden, and that ties into Buddhism as well. Basically, when you conquer external desire, you return back to the Garden of Eden. You leave the Garden of Eden because you let desire into your life. So how do you go back to Eden? You live from the opposite of desire, which is love. Okay, but that's getting on a sidetrack. So when you do away with the concept of original sin, then you have something that is back again from time travel. But when you start to see everybody as a sinner, then you're basically assuming, okay, everybody is a sinner, which creates now the separation between humans and God. And that's a distance, okay? So that's not a close relationship with God when you already are coming from a distance and you're coming to the conclusion that, hey, humans are little things, we're insignificant, and then God is magnificent and God is everything. And that is Christianity from the concept of original sin. Okay? Let's go to the next religion, which in this case would be, hold on here. Let's go to the next one. Over here, let's go into Muslim religion or Islam. Just call it Islam. Now, Islam is about Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. God bless his name, as they would say. And the concept of Islam is that in order to basically be a good Muslim, you have to pray so many times per day. And they have a whole bunch of different rules. For one thing, of the penalty of abandoning the Muslim faith, which is called apostasy. The penalty for that apparently is death, and they've got all sorts of rules against homosexuality, which is a bit ironic considering the alliance of Muslims with LGBTQ in some circles. So, but the whole idea here is that heaven happens if you are a good Muslim and you go to heaven, and if you are bad, you go to hell. And they've outlined a bunch of different hells, and they're apparently a bit more descriptive about the hells than the Bible. And but again, Muslims and Christians have something in common, and that is they both see heaven as something that happens after you die. Okay, so that places humans as a victim and something that you can't experience heaven or until you die, pretty much, or unless you are some special prophet. And apparently a lot of these religions, they regard that all of the possible prophets have already happened. There's not any new prophets that are going to happen. And so anyway, let's go to the next one. So we got, how about we go into Hinduism? Okay, Hinduism is another religion. Hinduism, mostly these days, Hinduism is not about the different paths of yoga like Patanjali, and when we're talking about Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga and Dharana Yoga, when we talk about Hinduism, typically we're talking about the religion of Hinduism, which just basically falls usually into the concept of Bhakti Yoga, which is similar to what the Hare Krishnas do, and that is basically worship. Okay, there's nothing wrong with worship, and worship is one of the paths of yoga, one of the 7 or 8 paths. And ultimately, at the heights of Bhakti Yoga, the worship and the relationship with the divine is so profound that the ideal is you become one with the object of your worship. And then there's no other greater joy for a Bhakti devotee than to be in perfect union and harmony with the object of your worship, whether that be Krishna, whether that be Shiva, or whichever deity. Obviously in Hinduism we have multiple deities, and also you also have gurus as well. And there's some misunderstandings about gurus. Some people think, well, if you have a guru, that means, okay, now you're a slave to your guru. And that's not what the guru-disciple relationship is about at all. And that's hopefully one misconception that we can clear up in the future. But basically, in a nutshell, a guru just basically means that you're a satellite broadcasting a certain frequency of enlightenment and bliss and love. And if you're able to tap into and align yourself with that frequency being broadcast from the guru, then you are benefiting from the guru-disciple relationship. And then at some point, when you become a master yourself, and hopefully that is the end result here, gurus aren't trying to get people to be devotees in perpetuity. What they want people to do is to be at their level, right? To be a master like them, so that they too can be so filled up, full of ecstasy and bliss, that you can inspire other people, and that your presence alone is enough to awaken hearts and inspire minds. And so when you think of it from that perspective, as a true guru, and you are an embodiment of truth, well, truth is what sets you free, as they say, right? And truth will set you free. So anything that brings you into that continuous experience of absolute truth is basically being in the presence of God, and so close to the presence of God that you are absorbed in the experience of God or absolute truth. And this experience is called samadhi. And samadhi basically means to unite with the divine. And it's possible to reach samadhi as well as a Bhakti yogi once you've gone down that path far enough. Okay? What else we have? Judaism. Okay? Judaism is another religion. Again, they typically regard humans as being insignificant compared to God, but the Jewish people are typically looked upon as the chosen people. So there is a sovereignty there of the Jewish faith. I mean, every religion, and to be fair, every religion thinks of themselves as the best path, right? Of course, the Muslims will think that their religion is better than the Christians. Of course, the Christians are going to think their religion is better than the Hindus. Of course, the Hindus are going to think their religion is better than Judaism. It's like, so every branch is going to think that theirs is the best. But of course, baked into Judaism as well is that sovereignty of their faith. However, in the Bible, there's some criticisms potentially with the Bible of it being a judgmental God. And in many ways, in the Old Testament, there is a humanizing of God, where God can have a wrath of God. And my experience, as a yogi, and not subscribing to any ideology, and having my basis being just pure samadhi and unconditional love and bliss, is that God is not a judgmental God. Okay, what judges people are humans, and the worst judge of everyone is themselves, right? Everyone is their own worst judge. There's no one that's going to judge you more harshly than you. So it's a good thing that you are placed in custody of yourself, because you get to judge harshly yourself, or or not. Once you start to get to the higher realms of samadhi, then you start to realize, hey, life is not about in judging yourself or other people. Life is about experiencing bliss and everything. But again, all of these religions, they're about creating a certain separation, and then there's a dogma that's involved. But let's see I'm sure we're probably missing out on another. Yeah, Buddhism, of course. And then Buddhism has been misunderstood. I mean, Buddhism is a very old religion, and with Buddhism, originally the Buddha was a very charismatic and inspired individual who was not fat. There's nothing to show that he was fat. The fat Buddha was actually a different guy that was popularized far after the original Buddha. But there's been so many generations of Buddhists and monasteries and monks and elder monks, and that a whole culture of Buddhism has arisen that, in my opinion, is disconnected from the original teachings of the Buddha. Just to cite an example, the middle way as spoken by the Buddha is about you shouldn't become overly happy or overly sad based upon anything external to yourself, because that has to do with external desire, right? If something external to you makes you very, very happy, that's going to create a desire within you. Why? Because desire can only happen for something that you regard as outside of yourself, okay? And so in the modern day Buddhist, though, that has been translated or misunderstood now to mean not that you shouldn't be overly happy or overly sad from anything external, but they've translated that to mean that you just should not be overly happy or overly sad, period. That's the conclusion, that if you are too inspired, there must be something wrong with you. If you're too blissful, there must be something wrong with you. You have to come down to this, misunderstood middle way. But in actual fact, the true way of the Buddha is he was a very ecstatic, very blissful, very loving personality, like Jesus. And also like Jesus, his teachings were misunderstood and politicized. And what you can find from anything involving anything politicized is that they're going to make it into an ideology, because things appeal politically only if it looks like you benefit from it in some way. And you only benefit from it in some way is if you are told that you are a sinner, or that there's something wrong with you, and that the only salvation to your problems is with the ideology. And so that's what we're coming back down to with the danger of religion. So what is the danger of religion? It's certainly, part of it is the belittling of your own human nature, to look down upon yourself. But it's more than that, because since we are all created in the image of God, we have that spark of limitlessness within us. Okay, this spark of limitlessness is infinite. It's like a miniature version of God. To use a hologram analogy, to make a hologram, it requires many, many smaller holograms that are identical to the grand hologram. But when we're talking about something as spacious and expansive as the divine, it's something so all-encompassing that there's nothing that can exceed it, right? So it's difficult for the mind to comprehend, because the mind can only comprehend in terms of form. And what is form but putting limits on things so that we can make sense of it, right? That's what our senses do, right? They take stimuli from our eyes and they translate it into things our brains can understand and put structure to. And that goes for all of the senses. And so the point here, though, is that when you have something as limitless as the divine in your heart, it's difficult for the mind to comprehend. In fact, the mind is going to try to comprehend the reaches of furthest space and other planets before they attempt to try to unlock the mysteries of their own heart. There's the old analogy, know thyself, and the truth will set you free. And when, if you truly know yourself, you don't see yourself as insignificant. You start to see the greater potential that exists within you. All right, so the danger of religion is the same danger of all of the ideology, and that is conformity, okay? Conformity. And conformity, as we know, that also leads to tyranny. So what can happen is the government, if it's run by a religion, now they think they're not only the highest judicial and government authority, but now they see themselves as also the highest religious authority. And when you have that much power into one institution, as they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Especially when such power is given to those that are not ready or willing to wield it wisely, because only the enlightened. So there's no. Someone told me this long ago. He said the most perfect government was an enlightened monarchy. And why is that? Because when you have a king that's enlightened and is perpetually inspired and is wise, that king could act more efficiently, more quickly, and more wisely than any committee of peers. Okay, in order for a committee to be on the same level as an enlightened king, the entire committee would need to be enlightened. And how often does that happen? It's rare enough to find one person that's enlightened. You try to get a group of people together in a room and get them to decide on things. Yeah, it's not efficient. Obviously, the ideal scenario is to give power to enlightened people, because they can be the wise monarch and make sure that big mistakes can't happen. And that's what happens with religion, because it's an ideology and because there is a conformity involved. There is a set dogma that the practitioners must abide by in order to be accepted by other members of that faith. And that doesn't matter, no matter which faith that is, whether it's Christianity, whatever faith. If you're not conforming with the certain basic rules, you are outcast from that religion. And so that's where we come into tyranny. And what it ultimately comes down to is, how great do you see God? How great do you see the ultimate? Because if you see God as truly great and truly limitless, no religion has the power to limit God itself, right? No book can contain all the wisdom of absolute truth, or the cosmic mind, or whatever word you want to use for, or Allah, or Yad-He Vav-He. It's like no book can contain all of the wisdom. Same thing, because of this, no religion also contains all of the wisdom. And if a religion did contain all of the wisdom, nobody would be able to understand it unless they were actually enlightened. And so one thing about religion is it's predicated upon all of the followers being more or less equal. Okay? Followers are equal. I mean, there's certain exceptions, of course. And then you're getting into some cults where it's like, then you have like one person who's like, the god, and everybody else is like beneath them. And then, that's an entirely different kind of sickness in the dynamic of the relationship. Because ultimately, in the end, no mind is equal, number one. But number two, every heart is a limitless spark of the divine. And so this is the conundrum, because no mind is equal, then obviously not everyone is suitable for the same tasks. Not everybody can be a doctor, not everybody can be a lawyer, not everybody apparently can be an enlightened master. Maybe their mind isn't ready for that, and that's fine too. Anyway, just to conclude here, because this has already gone on quite a long time, but the danger of religion. Okay, well, when you start to get into the ideology, actually I misspelled that, didn't I? Starting to get to ideology and conformity and tyranny, then you can have what's called religion. So more people died in the name of religion than maybe any other way. Well, actually, that's if we don't include the atrocities of different past, like Stalin and Hitler and Chairman Mao. I don't think that those atrocities were really religious at all, but many deaths were because of religion, right? Any Islamic terrorist attacks, the Crusades, back when the Muslims and the Christians were at war with each other, a lot of people died. But unfortunately now things have become a lot more peaceful between religions comparatively to how they were before in the past. And so there's some improvement with that. But what is more ideal than a religion would be the direct experience of God, which would be enlightenment. Because then you don't have to be involved at all with any of the ideologies. You can bypass all of the world's religions, and you have direct access to limitless bliss, limitless unconditional love, and you can carry that perpetual state of samadhi with you 24/7. And as far as I can tell, there is no religion on earth where all of their followers are in a perpetual state of love and bliss. Everybody seems to struggle, everybody seems to have hardships, and there seems to be no exception to that, except if you are actually enlightened and liberated. Anyway, this is Amaboda signing off. This has been The Danger of Religion. And again, it comes down to the victimhood mindset, and you want to get out of that, to have more of a warrior mentality, to have a champion mentality, to not see yourself as a victim, to not see yourself as a sinner, to not see yourself as someone that's impure and not holy, but to in fact stoke the flames of righteousness and holiness within yourself, to work on appreciating the sacredness and beauty of every single moment, and to come from a place of experiencing love and bliss all the time. And when you can really be stubborn about that, stubborn about being in this ecstatic state, that is the warrior mindset. That's what it is to be a warrior of light. It's when you are impacting the world as a force of positivity, goodness and righteousness, and your very presence alone can inspire people and lift them up. I mean, that is the ideal to strive for. And then I know that is my personal ideal. And that's what I try to be better at every day, to be able to have such a strong presence that just invisibly being able to just walk into a room, that you're able to uplift people, even if they're not aware of the reasons of why their mood is brightening, but that you can have that level of impact. And that's what I see is completely possible, and that is the future of humanity, the inevitable future of humanity. Everybody's going to get this way. Everybody's going to get to a place where the sport is going to be about who can awaken the most hearts, who can inspire the most minds. When we have that level of competition, then everybody wins. Then there is no losers, because now you're living in a world of wonder. Again, this is Amaboda signing off. Until next time, and that could be as early as tomorrow, peace, love, bliss to all of you, my brothers and sisters. Bye-bye.